Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, Vincent LaRusso and I are going to be discussing the debut Frehley's Comet album. We'll talk about what it was like getting new material from Ace a few years after he left Kiss, what songs we like on the album, which songs we don't like, and much more. Lots to cover. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this. So let's jump in and let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today, I have back with me my buddy, comrade, the man wearing a black collared shirt today. Welcome back, Mr. Vincent LaRusso. How you doing, bloody?
I'm back in the New York groove.
Wait, did you prepare for the wrong album?
Oh shit, we're not doing that one.
No, we're not doing that one.
Oh, well, it's still the right artist. Okay, I'll just wing it then.
We're not doing Winger either.
Oh, we're not doing Winger. All right, all right. I guess we'll have to wait until White Lion comes.
I see what you did there. This is giving me some good ideas though, because the last few episodes we did, I'll say non-Kiss or non-Kiss related episodes. We did the Boston debut, we did Kicks Blow My Fuse, and we said, all right, let's go back and do another Kiss related album, right? We said we didn't want to just jump in and do another Kiss album. We said, let's go Kiss related. And I think we were on the phone and I said to you, pick any of the solo albums, Ace, Bruce, Peter, Vinny, you choose. And you didn't even hesitate. Did not hesitate, not one bit. You said first Frehley's Comet album.
Yes.
Why was that? Before we talk about songs and all that, what made you think that album first?
I think it's just the impact it had at the time. I remember. Yeah, I'm going to answer your question before you ask it. Do you remember when you first got the Ace Frehley? You know?
Okay.
And I don't remember when I got it. No, actually, I'm lying. I kind of do, but don't. But what I do remember is that you knowing that it was coming out, of course, and being all thawed. And I actually remember walking down my hallway, opening my front door, and you walking in with the album after you had purchased it. Now, I don't know. You probably had listened to it already. I don't think you did the debut listen at my place, at my abode. So the record came out in April 27th of 1987.
Yep.
Which is his birthday, isn't it? Isn't that Ace's birthday?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So I don't think that was coincidental. I think that was probably planned.
I'm sure that was planned. Absolutely.
So I remember getting the record and being quite surprised because I didn't know what to expect. You know, back then I didn't know who Richie Scarlet was. I didn't know that they were having these other, like there's the video you could see for Breakout, I believe, with Richie Scarlet. That's an excellent rendition of a Breakout with Richie Scarlet doing the lead vocals and Anton the Fig on the drums, one of my favorites. And so I remember you having the record and being pleasantly surprised. And then of course I got a copy.
Of course.
I got my copy with the hype sticker.
Nice.
And on it says it says rock and roll 498. So you remember it's only rock and roll sticker right there.
That's nice.
So this is 987. So I probably got it soon, either when they put the sticker on it or soon thereafter. I know I had it in 87. As I always said, I was kind of late in the game and buying records. So from 86 on is when I really started buying records. So yeah, this is an original pressing in the shrink wrap. And I remember, like, the first thing I remember was like turning it over and saying, wow, Ace Frehley looks pretty good here. You know what I mean? Because Ace Frehley was always kind of weird looking dude, you know?
Yep. Right now, up to that point, I mean, publicity photos was just like a couple of them. And there was one where he was like sideways and his face just looked like all distorted. And
it was weird.
It was such a weird, right? Yep.
Yeah. And it's funny because John Regan looks like kind of John Waite in the back of this cover. But, you know, and then seeing the Fig back there. And I mean, obviously I knew who Anton Fig was because of Ace's solo album, his first solo album. And we should note that this is not an Ace Frehley solo album. This is really a band effort because it's Frehley's Comet. Okay.
Yep.
And yeah.
In fact, let me just interrupt you there for a moment. The original album, like if you hold up the album cover right now, you can see it says Ace Frehley on it. It was not supposed to say Ace Frehley up there. It was supposed to just be Frehley's Comet. And the label kind of thought putting his name on it may help sell a couple of extra copies.
Yeah. When I signed Ace Frehley, I decided we should put the top here. You know.
That sounds absolutely nothing like Eddie Trunk, by the way.
Yeah,
sounds like Kermit the Frog or Bert.
Oh, yeah.
Ernie, can you come here, Ernie?
So yeah, but I think that was a smart move because not everybody might know who Ace Frehley. You know, in hindsight, I love the logo of this. I'm not so crazy about the image they used. It's okay, you know, the album.
Well, all right. So let me pause you there. I'm glad you brought up the image. So that image is a takeoff, if you will, of, if you remember, in 1986, Halley's Comet was a big thing in the news. I don't know if you remember that. I do. And that's where the Frehley's Comet name comes from. Although some people like to say it's a spin on Bill Haley and his comets. If you lived in that time period and you knew Halley's Comet was a huge story at the time, and one of the biggest publicity photos, you could Google this, actually looks very similar to that front cover.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that if I remember right, the comet's just going in the opposite direction, but it's a very similar type photo of Halley's Comet.
Yeah. And what's interesting about this, now I see why it was $4.98, because it does have the infamous cutout, if you can see on the bottom there.
Yep, I see it.
How dare they ruin my original pressing with that cutout. But yeah, and it was, you know, it's interesting, you know, it did have this kind of weird Alf-like character, you know, if anyone remembers that. I don't even know what that is.
I don't remember. I don't remember if that's it might have been some of like Ace's computer graphic stuff he was doing.
Yeah, but that was more, I think, on the second side.
Second side, and I know, like with the feet, like in the opposite direction. I don't know if this had something to do with that. I don't know what this is. I don't remember.
Yeah, but it's interesting on here. It says, "Special thanks to Richie Scarlet. We love you. Thanks for not being the band, though." No, it doesn't say that.
It doesn't say that.
You know, and all the curly people out there, and you know who you are. And wasn't that like the whole thing? Was that Kiss? Was he talking about Kiss? You know?
No, I remember. I think he was like, "Hey, Curly, hey, Curly," like that was his thing. So, and I always thought that he was talking about me because I had curly hair at the time.
Well, obviously, because he didn't know who you were, so that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So, again, just looking at all the wonderful credits and reading the stuff back in the day, and Ed Trunk is pretty much second or third, you want to say, because special thanks to Jan and Marcia Zazula, which I think they were the head of the Megaforce label.
Yes, they were. Yep.
And so yeah, so it's pretty cool, you know, looking at this stuff, reminiscing back to you know, when we bought records again. I know I sound like a broken record about the vinyl, and yes, I did say vinyl.
Well, a couple of things to kind of unpack what you just said here. First off, I find it surprising that you said you bought that in September of '87. Did you say?
Well, the sticker says September '87.
Right. No, that's so. But my point is that is what, 6 months or so after the album came out that it's stickered, and it's a cutout. I find that interesting. So it was in the cutout bin that quickly?
I don't think so, because you remember, It's Only Rock and Roll. Like our Appetite for Destruction was like basically the same price. It was like $4.98. It was a reduced. I don't think it was a cutout, but it wasn't the original cover.
Right.
And I remember them, I think, even saying that to us.
No, wait, it was the original cover. It was. That's
what I meant to say.
I knew. I wanted to correct that. Yep.
Yeah. Once again, I'm messing up the podcast. Why don't I just give the wrong score again right now?
Well, no. Why don't you take out the '78 solo album and just start reviewing and talking about that instead?
Wait, we're not talking about this? Oh, yeah. But yeah, I don't think that was the case. I
Mhm.
really don't. You could say maybe I bought an 88 and then, but no, the fact that it says 987, it might
Yeah.
have been maybe I don't even know how to explain this. It's too
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
it
what's
could have
weird
been.
is my copy I got, like you said, when it first came out, it is also a cutout. I don't have it here in front of me, and it's a promo copy.
Hmm.
So I just always thought that was a little odd. And I didn't buy it because it was a promo. I didn't realize it when I purchased it. I just like, ooh, new Ace Frehley album, purchase,
Yeah.
and that was that. But I also want to kind of just talk because everybody,
I just love the image in the back cover. People,
yes,
it's a really cool picture of the band
it is
with the fig.
with the figure. I actually have, I'll say, a promo poster from the album with that picture on it. All 4 members signed it. And I have the album itself, I think, signed by all 4 members as well. It's just, it's not behind me right now.
Yeah, I think I was with you when you had.
Yeah, I think I did that in Indy, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Now that you say
Yeah.
that, yeah, in 2018.
Yeah.
But yourself, myself, and plenty of other Kiss fans have always kind of joked and given Eddie Trunk a hard time about the fact that he's brought up at least once or twice per day
A day.
for the last 30 some years.
Yeah.
That he signed Ace Frehley. He signed Ace Frehley. He signed Ace Frehley. And as much as Kiss fans give him a hard time for repeating that story over and over again, I do think it bears at least mentioning that in the early 80s, 83, 84, 85, 86, Ace was basically seen as unreliable and basically unsignable, which is just freaking crazy to think about. He was still in a bit rough shape, with the drugs and the drinking. And most labels felt Ace couldn't put an album together. And if he did, he couldn't tour behind it. So a lot of labels stayed away from Ace Frehley for years. Now, supposedly also, he couldn't record an album after leaving Kiss until 85. But even still, he was getting very little bites, if you will, from labels that were interested in them. In fact, I remember reading once, John Regan said that they had actually signed to a UK label before Megaforce. And it was like an independent UK label. And then that label actually went out of business, went bankrupt before they could record the album. They started doing demos. And my point is, that's the type of lack of interest labels had in Ace Frehley. And even Megaforce, which I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a subsidiary of Atlantic, but they were considered an independent label. And Eddie Trunk was really, I'll say, as a huge Kiss fan as he was taking a shot on Ace where nobody else would. So I say that because we all give Eddie a hard time because he repeats the story over and over again. But in fairness, I wonder if Eddie didn't take that shot, would anybody else have? And this is a time where everybody was getting signed in the 80s, right? But Ace Frehley couldn't find a record contract. So I joke and I give Eddie Trunk a hard time because he repeats the story all the time also. But the reality is, I don't know if Ace would have had a solo career in the 80s if it wasn't for Eddie Trunk.
I just think eventually, just based on name alone and sort of brand or coming from a brand, he would have. But it's a good point. I think it's a really fair point because at this point, it's almost, 1988. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the decade's almost over. So I think it's a point well taken.
Yeah. And up until this album coming out, he did one show the end of November in 84 in New York. Yeah. And then like maybe 4, 5, 6 shows in the Northeast in the beginning of 85, like March, I think, of 85, New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, maybe. That was it. Like people were not like Ace wasn't out there. So I should also mention, because you brought up Richie Scarlet before, the reason supposedly that Richie Scarlet wasn't in the band for the album at this point and forward is because both John and Eddie Trunk were concerned that Ace was in rough shape, still drinking and drugging, and that Richie was a bad influence, that Richie was younger, a little bit of a party animal, and they wanted to get somebody who was maybe not going to be such a bad influence on them. John already knew Todd and brought Todd into the fold. And we'll talk about as we go through the songs if we think that was a good or a bad thing. But I kind of feel bad, if you will, for Richie because he was there in those beginning days and he did have a co-write on the album. And I think he was a good fit for the band, but that's the reason he wasn't on the albums because supposedly John and Eddie were like, yeah, we got to keep Ace as straight as possible. And Richie being there is just not going to help.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it still would have been I think Todd brought a lot, but you know, I've always said I'm not the hugest Richie Scarlet fan.
Hmm.
However, just hearing that rendition of Breakout with him doing the vocals I think is a great vocal. And the fact of the matter is, from what I understand, he was the one who wrote the lyrics to that.
Yep.
It's not much lyrics to the song. When I actually read them, like, wow, there's hardly anything to the song, but still, it is what it is.
Yep.
And I'll get more into my belief of the songwriting of this record once we start going. But yeah, that all makes sense. It all makes sense.
And you said, and then we'll jump into the songs. You said about Ace with name recognition, which I agree. But believe it or not, the album was never officially even certified gold. It kind of stalled at around 400,000 copies in the 80s, and they never went back, obviously, and recertified it. I'm sure it's gold by now. I'm not trying to suggest that it hasn't sold 500,000 copies, but even with the name recognition.
Hold on, it's just coming in now. It's at 499,999 copies. They need
to
sell one more.
Quick, go out and buy one. No, so my point just being, even with that name recognition, it kind of does lend a little bit to the fact that, we all love Ace now, and so many Kiss fans, love Ace. But it was a little bit at that point, people weren't sure what they were going to get from Ace. And I don't think Kiss fans were dying for the Ace album. Not like, I mean, even in the lean years, Kiss was selling 1 million copies of albums, right? It's Asylum, Animalized, Crazy Nights, Ace, no surprise, he was a solo artist, but Ace wasn't doing that. So it's just, I like to put that in context, because it kind of sets the stage for, there wasn't, I don't think, an enormous amount of anticipation from outside of diehard Kiss fans for this album.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a fair point.
Yeah.
I think it's a real fair point.
And the expectations, I think, people were unsure also. I mean, Ace's 78 album was incredible, but that was almost a decade before at this point.
Now, was it expectation or was it expectation?
Well, of course it's expectations. Oh, man. So, all right. Do we want to jump in then and start to talk about the songs on the album? Again, we're not doing that album either.
So jump in.
Oh, sorry.
All right. You start first, Pointer Sister. Sorry.
And yes, I do get that reference.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
All righty. Well, the first song on the album then, Rock Soldiers. I guess I'll start off with this one. This is, I think, a great first song on the album. We just spoke about the fact that Ace had been kind of out of the spotlight for 5 years at this point, right? So the lyric, the whole Ace is back and he told you so. I think it's the perfect opening song on Ace's. I know it's not a solo album. This is a band, but I'm going to say his first album, right? I think, to me, the surprising thing about this song, Ace didn't write the lyrics. Just when I hear that, it just like, it blows my mind. Now, Chip Taylor, who helped write a Wild Thing, right? An established artist himself. He knew the Ace story. He knew the Ace story about, the troubles he had with getting into car accidents, and he wrote the lyrics. It's just kind of ironic to me that maybe the most quote unquote Ace solo like song, his most classic song as a solo artist, the lyrics aren't even written by the goddamn guy. It's amazing. And I'll say this, I happen to love the lyrics Chip put together. And as cheesy as it is, I love the lyric, he's going to play without an ace in his deck. I just always thought that was so clever. It's cheesy. I know that, but I always loved it. Saying all that, I don't think this song is great by any means. It's great for what it was. It's great for the first song, for Ace's first song on his solo album, band album, whatever you want to say. But it's not an incredible song. I'm going to go with a 6.7 on this.
Yeah. I mean, we always say, again, we don't have to go through the scores and how we do it, but the sevens is starting with the upper echelon.
Yes.
I think it's a really
and
solid
fives are average.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Fives are average. And I'm sorry, I'll cut you off again. And like I always say, not every friggin' song is a 10. Not everything is Stairway to Heaven or whatever your 10s may be, right? So keep that in mind when we do these ratings. So thank you for bringing that up, my friend.
Yes. I think it's a great start for a record. It's got a great feel. I love the the little guitar licks that he puts in between the verse lines.
Mhm.
It's with the delay. It's really cool. Yeah, I gave it a little bit higher than you. I think it does start in that upper echelon. I gave it a 7.3.
Okay.
It's a solid, real solid start to the record.
Now, let me ask you this. I remember reading a story years ago that Gene Simmons called either Megaforce or Eddie Trunk. I think Eddie Trunk was the one telling the story, so maybe he called Eddie. Eddie, you guys blew it. How could Ace's lead single not be Rock Soldiers? He's coming back. It's Ace's back. Do you think this should have been, without talking about Into the Night for a moment, do you think this should have been the lead single for the album?
Absolutely, absolutely, no doubt. I think Gene was right on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a title. It's not the title. It's the opening track to the record, just based on the lyric itself. Ace is back and it told you so. It could. They did do the video for this one, right? It was the second, right? They did it to the night.
The second video.
Makes no sense as the first to me, and as we come to find out, there was only 2 singles from this record.
Yes.
And there's one obvious one that was left off, this record, which we'll get to.
Yes.
But
I think we'll both agree on that probably.
Yeah. So yeah, it's it's a damn solid song. I listen to it now. There's nothing that bothers me. The one thing and I've said this before about Eddie Kramer, he gets the most out of Ace Frehley and his vocals.
Great.
Every album that Eddie Kramer produced, whether it's a solo album, whether it's this album, or the Ace Frehley, whatever that 1989 album was called Ace Frehley.
Right, Trouble Walking.
Trouble Walking, thank you. Just always got the best out of Ace, and everything I've heard since then, in between, he just had a certain way of getting to. I could hear it, like the attitude or certain things. Listen, Ace Frehley's never going to be mistaken as Michael Bolton or otherwise. You know what I mean? He's Ace Frehley. You could throw Ace Frehley, Bob Dylan, and Tom Petty into a blender, and it'd be an interesting mix.
That's a very interesting mix. But it's because I want to save my comments on the vocals on this album for another song. But I 100% agree with what you're saying here.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
All righty. Should we move on to song number 2 then? Breakout?
Yeah.
Go ahead, my friend.
Oh, I'm going first on this one?
Yeah, you're going to go first on this since you already kind of whet the appetite a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Breakout, this is always one of my favorites. At first when I thought about it, I was like, oh man, this is a 10. But then I thought about it, I was like, I love the song, and I love I love the verses more than the chorus. Anton Fig's drumming. First of all, Anton Fig's drumming on this whole album is spectacular. This is a fine.
I'm going to tweak this sentence a little bit. Anton Fig's drumming is spectacular. You don't even have to say on this album, just anything. Anything.
True.
So, but yes, on this album also, it's spectacular.
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of got a little like homage to the to Rip It Out. It's kind of got that little thing, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But when he does his whole drum fill thing, and then Ace does his licks, and I remember at the time like I was like, wow, that was kind of like a little unlike Ace from what I remember hearing from his Kiss days, and that's one of the things I wanted to touch upon, because I remember feeling at the time, and then I revisited this thought now, thinking, wow, Ace really kind of evolved in his playing. Like, listen, he didn't sound like Eddie Van Halen or Red Beach or any of those type of guys, or even a Warren DeMartini. He's still, you could tell it's Ace Frehley, but I felt that it was, again, all the solos that Ace does on here on Rock Soldiers is always very melodic, memorable. He kind of I mean, he's always gonna have his typical. He's always gonna have his, his Ace-isms. It's like, it's once again lathered, with Ace-isms. But again, I got to give credit where credit's due. His playing on this record is very, very appropriate to the songs, and it's very tasteful. And again, is that an Eddie Kramer thing? We know the albums that Eddie Kramer produced with Kiss. It's just like when Ace to me always had a wall, or a ceiling, I should say. And he knew what his ceiling was. It's like any of these other guitar players of his style. Even the Eddie Van Halens, after a while, as inventive, as creative, you heard Eddie Van Halen. Oh, that's Eddie Van Halen.
Yes.
You didn't say, wait, is this Eddie Van Halen or is this, like I said, Red Beach, or is this one of the other guys? You know,
you knew it was
Eddie. He had his, and as I've come to learn in trying to evolve my own guitar playing, and I watch a lot of YouTube videos. Like I'll put in, what did Eddie Van Halen do? What scales? And it's like they'll say, here's the 3 tricks that Eddie used over and over again, but he made them sound different. But it was still in the same zone on the fretboard.
Sure.
So, and it's kind of like what all these guys do. I should say all, because there are some other guys who, you know, they really like, they hit a point like, wow, where did this come from? You know, you can listen, like one of the greatest guitar players that people talk about but don't talk about is like a Jeff Beck, you know, who's an incredible guitar player. When you hear like what he did from the Yardbirds up until, you know, the end of his career, and what he did in his with Rod Stewart, and what he did with his solo records in the early to mid 70s, all that like fusion stuff he did. It was just, you heard like, oh my God, this guy's like a different guy. This isn't the guy who played in 1969. This is some other, you know. So, but you know, but the thing is, there's nothing wrong with being who you are and sitting and living in your wheelhouse. And you're still waiting for my score here.
I'm still waiting.
Still waiting for my score. After all that, I gave this song a 6.2. No, I didn't. I gave this song I gave the song a 9.1.
Nice. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, you mentioned this before, that you've seen the video of Richie singing it. Obviously on the album, it's Todd. Who do you like better singing this song, Richie or Todd?
Richie.
Yeah, I hate saying me too, but in this particular case,
sorry, Todd, if you watch this, you know.
No, and look, when we get some of Todd's
I can tell you exactly why. I can tell you why. It's just got a raspiness and a grittiness that I just,
that fits the lyric a little bit.
It sounds dirtier. It sounds dirtier.
Yes.
You know, I think, I think, and we should mention, and I think it's important, you put the record on, you hear rock, so we don't know who Todd Howarth is. And also we hear this other voice, like, whoa, all right, this is, oh yeah, this guy could sing. This is good. You know?
That's what I was going to say. I think Todd's a better singer, but for this song, I think just that raspy voice with the whole theme of the song, I think Richie's voice just fit the theme of the song better.
And it's so funny because there's so many memories that come back. You know, when he goes, I'm at the breaking point.
Yeah,
you know, I remember you in your room going, you know, when you did that, imitating him doing it back in the day. It's certain like lines I could still remember you doing. It's like I remember, like I was telling on that one episode we were talking about Night Rangers, Sing Me Away, bam, bam, bam. Like he used to do this. Like every time without fail, you and your brother would do something that was infamous, you know?
I don't remember that, but I'm 100% sure that you're right.
It happened. It happened.
Yes. Well, you know, the one thing you didn't mention with this song that I think that bears bringing up is musically, this was a Kiss leftover from The Elder, which is just incredible to me that you think that, and that's where the Eric Carr co-write comes in on this. Ace and Eric were jamming this song, I think in like May of 1981, if I remember right. And that's where the genesis of this song started. There were no lyrics to it at the time, but that's why you have the whole car jam that came out on the Revenge album. That's the same song musically. Right? So, you know, it's amazing that this song kind of sat around for 6 years until it was released. And I think Richie did a great job, and kudos to him. You know, like you said, there's not a lot of lyrics here, but the lyrics he wrote to me fits the song perfectly. It's got a good feel, a good groove to it. Like you said, I love the drums in it. I love the guitar solos. Saying that, I think it's a good song, even borderline great, but it's not super, super upper echelon. Like I never once sat there thinking, oh, this is a 10. Not once that thought crossed my mind. I'm going to go with a 7.2 on this.
That's not a good rating, but we can move on.
Oh, hold on. We always say 7 and above is where you begin to go upper echelon. So 7.2, you're just starting to touch that upper echelon.
All right, blow my fuse. Let's get to the next one.
You know, maybe the fact that I've heard that damn song Breakout so many times in concert, and it was like a staple, and they dedicated it to Eric Carr every time. It just became like so routine to me. Maybe that influences me, but I feel comfortable with my 7.2.
It's so funny that I just said this without knowing this. I said, okay, blow my fuse. And you gave Blow My Fuse a 7.2.
Look at that. You see? And I would say I probably would enjoy both songs equally. That is very funny.
Wow.
That is very funny.
Okay.
All righty.
boomerang, boo, boo, boo. I was looking at the last time, my notes, and sorry. All right.
That is quite all right.
Before I go back to seeing what, don't close your eyes. Okay.
We're going to go back. Well, don't worry. I'll bring that up probably at some point. But
Yeah.
all righty. The third song and what was
Alrighty.
the first
Yeah.
single on the album, Into the Night, which is actually a cover tune.
Feels so right.
It just feels so right.
Yeah.
Why don't you go first, my friend?
Well, we should note that Russ Ballard, the great Russ Ballard, who it should be noted that he was the co-writer or the writer of
The
New York
writer,
Groove,
I think, yeah.
right? And if people don't know, people should listen to Argent, the band that he was in. I don't know if he founded it, but that was a record from my childhood. I'm not sure of the record. I could probably just give me 1 second to look it up, because it's a great record, and it's the record that has Hold Your Head Up. That was on the album All Together Now, and it's so funny. I see this album cover, reminds me of when I was younger, and my dad would have this record, and I stared at this album cover a zillion times, and had a gatefold. And anyways, you should check out the album, studio album by Argent, called All Together Now, and the lead track is Hold Your Head Up. However, I think as there might be somebody who plays a Hammond organ on this record, so if you're ever anti-Hammond organ, you might not want to listen.
If you're Brunn and you're anti-Hammond organ, don't buy the album.
But you should check it out. But anyways, am I going first on this one, or are we just talking about?
Well, I told you could go first, but if you want me to take the wheel, I'll gladly take the wheel. But you go ahead.
Yeah, I just love this song. And we sing, and the way that guitar, and he's doing like, and if you listen closely, he's going, and there's one part where there's, and the other thing, like, and I listen to the finer things of songs. As soon as the song goes doom doom doom, the bang, around, dan and it's got the shaker.
Yep.
I'm like, all right. Is that Fig? Was that Fig's idea? Or was that Eddie Kramer's? Because it's usually the producer or the drummer. It just adds like to the feel. And when at the end, when it's doing that, there's one part where Fig goes doom 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 bam boom ba boom, like he breaks up like a little drum fill, which you don't kind of expect. It's like those are the little things. As a great drummer, just tasteful. His drum fills on this whole record are just great, But I love the pre-chorus in the song. I love the chorus in the song. It's just a fucking great song. And I gave this song an 8.5.
Nice. Now, the one thing you didn't mention, you mentioned that Russ Ballard wrote it. It's actually a cover tune, right? So Russ Ballard actually
did you say that?
Maybe I did, and I don't.
I think you said at the top. I think you said at the top.
Yeah. So Russ Ballard actually released.
Listen to your own words, please.
Yeah, I should pay attention to myself when I talk. Yeah, Russ Ballard released this like 3 years prior, and it's actually on an episode of Miami Vice.
I think I have that record with it.
Oh, really? Really? If you go on YouTube, you could find like the Miami Vice episode that has the Russ Ballard version in it, which is not oddly, it's called In the Night. I wonder why Ace Frehley decided to change it to Into the Night. I always wondered. Go ahead, tell me. Educate me, my friends.
I don't know why. No, normally I would say on something like that, it's the classic, let's change a word so I could get a writing credit, but it's not even that. It's not even that. So like, when Kiss did God Gave Rock and Roll to You, they changed the lyrics for the better, in my opinion. And it also helped because then they were able to get a songwriting credit alongside, Was that a Russ Ballard?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I figured you chose that.
Yeah.
But no, so I mean, you mentioned a couple of parts of the song.
Which is one of the greatest rewrites of any, or the Kiss's version of God Gave Rock and Roll to You is phenomenal.
Agreed. Even though it should have been God Gave Rock and Roll to You 3, because there is a second version with different lyrics also.
Right.
So, but anyway, that's another whole topic. You mentioned before the pre-chorus here, right? And to me, when I'm hearing Ace singing like the pre-chorus, like look in the alleys along the roads, and I'm not singing it, right? It's there to lose this.
Thank God.
Right? I listened to that, and you mentioned this before, Ace's vocal, and as I'm listening to it again, I'm like, is this potentially the best Ace vocal on any album recorded? It's like he's actually singing. He's not talking the way he normally does. And there's a little bit of effect on his voice. But as I'm listening, I'm like, this song might be the best recorded Ace vocal. I'm hard pressed to think of one better.
Yeah, I mean, that pre-chorus has got a certain emotion and feel that you rarely would hear on an Ace song.
Yeah.
And the song lends to it. So again, I don't know who worked with him on it.
Sure, it was
I don't know.
Kramer.
I don't even know. I was always really interested, and there's a lot of YouTube videos you can see on Eddie Kramer, and we all know he worked with all the greats, Zeppelin and whoever, the Stones, whoever he worked with. But was he there more as the engineer? Because he was a brilliant engineer, you know? Was he there more for the engineering part? When you hear producer, you think the guy who's like saying who's going to play on the record, who's doing what, listening to the demos, saying what's the good song, change this line. I would love to know a little bit more about that, you know?
That would be great.
So you got to get him on. You got to get him on.
I have tried once or twice in the past with no luck, but you never say never.
No luck,
You also mentioned that outro solo at the end of the song, which I find very interesting because the outro solo is not on the original version. Right? So somebody wrote that, if you will, for the ending. To me, that solo is not very Ace-like. Like you were mentioning before, like how like certain guitar players, like they're in like this wheelhouse on the fretboard. From my ears, that solo does not have that traditional Ace. I can't. So when I hear that solo at the end, I think of, even though they sound totally different, I think of Detroit Rock City, and Ace would never write that solo in Detroit Rock City. Right? And I'm like, I don't believe Ace wrote the solo at the end of this. I could be dead wrong. I could be 100% wrong, but whoever did, it's friggin' brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, listen, again, you could look at some of these songs, and when you see the co-writes, you know, pretty much on every song except for 2, Ace really has a co-write. It could have been one of these things like the Ozzy Osbourne effect. Listen, he's going to get a co-write on everything, even if he did nothing.
Well, I'll talk about that a little bit on a few songs on this album, but obviously
so you may know.
I do know on a few of the songs, but I mean, look, I think it's probably the most radio friendly song on the album. So from that point of view, I understand. I said before, Rock Soldiers to me should have been the first single, but I understand why they chose this song as the single, right? Because it is radio friendly. It's sung by Ace. And I think the label was hoping to get some top 40 radio airplay. It just was.
It's a cool video.
Yeah, it's a cool video. It's a cool video, and it's a good song. I just don't think any top 40 stations were ever going to touch Ace Frehley anyway. So that's why I think Rock Soldiers should have been the first single, even though I will now say I think Into the Night is the better song. You know? And I don't remember what you said you went, but I think we might be going the same on this. I went with an 8.5 on this.
Yep, same.
So I thought,
Yeah.
All righty.
Okay. You go first on this one.
Yes, we move on to Something Moved. So you mentioned before.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, I have it. You know what? I think when I listened to it on streaming, it was in a different order. Okay, that's fine. Just
Something Moved. So
it's out there.
Yes, it is out there. What I love about this, and you touched on it a little bit before, is that Frehley's Comet was a band. And I think Ace Frehley not being the best vocalist of all time, or even that good, to be honest with you, I love when he sings. I think what Ace's albums needs is somebody else singing a couple songs like this.
Well, people have said that. Sorry, Ace, even with his latest records, you get the Ace ear fatigue after listening to 8 to 9 to 10 songs. It was always nice to hear a little breakup of the. It was like listening to a Kiss record, you know, you know, it's just the way it is, you know.
So it's when you say that, while I was listening to this album, I thought on Ace's last solo album, would have I liked it if Steve Brown sang a couple of songs on the record? Steve Brown's a very good singer, better than Ace. And then I said to myself, no. And the reason I say no is because Frehley's Comet was a band, and I think Todd Howarth as a band member, I liked hearing him on some of the songs. The last album is an Ace Frehley solo album, even though a lot of people know Steve Brown did a lot for that album, right? But I love that Ace was billing this as a band. I love that Ace was letting Todd kind of do his thing, if you will. Because if I remember right, Todd is the only songwriter on this song, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I that says a lot about Ace, and probably the label also just wanted to make sure they had strong material. And I happen to think Todd brought in a couple of great songs, this one being the first one on the album. I really like this song a lot. It makes me say, as much as I say I like Richie's vocal on Breakout better than Todd's, I'm actually happy that Todd was in the band now instead of Richie, because with no disrespect to Richie, I think Todd just had good songs to bring to the table here. And when I think of Richie and I think of songs like Too Young to Die, well, I happen to think something like Something Moved is far superior to Too Young to Die. I happen to think Something Moved is a great song. It reminds me of why I got excited when 4x got together and they were doing Frehley's Comet songs and stuff like that, because I think Todd's stuff on this album is extremely strong. I'm going with a 7.2 on this song.
Okay. Yeah. I again, this has got the infamous Iron Maiden. I was like, I remember listening. I was like, man, is this Iron Maiden all of a sudden? Cool. And it should also be noted that, I believe on this song and on another song that Todd does the lead guitar, and he's an excellent, lead guitar player. Yeah, I didn't go quite as high as you on this one.
Okay.
I love that and you hear the bass boom, 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 boom. It's like all of a sudden you hear the bass real clear in that song, and it's got and it's kind of interesting. Boom, 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 boom. That something's out there, and it's like it's just an interesting from where it starts as a songwriting. It was always like, wow, where'd that come from?
And to me, it's a great melody also.
Yeah. And it's a great song. I didn't go quite as high as you. I went with a 6.7 on this one, but approaching that upper echelon of songs.
Okay, yeah, I originally at one point had it like a 7.5, and I was like, I think I'm being a little too generous there. Let me not let my emotions get the best of me.
So you said 7.2?
7.2, yes.
Electric Boogaloo. Okay.
All right. The last song on the first side, We Got Your Rock. Let me go first.
Right here.
Right here. Nowhere else. It's right here. Right here.
Yeah.
So here's, the last song on the side, Ace vocal. This is one, I forget who's the writing credits with this. It's Ace and somebody else.
Marty Coopersmith.
So Marty Coopersmith
of Jay of the Americans.
Yeah. Okay, well, Marty Coopersmith wrote this song in 1982.
Right.
Okay. And Ace just tweaked some of the lyrics in this song, which is why Ace has a writing credit. But basically, this is another cover tune on the album, right? Ace just was able to tack his name on for exactly the reason you said before. And I said I was going to save my comments for that. If you look on the internet, you can actually find the band Sin, which was with Rick Fox, who was in Wasp and Steeler. His band Sin demoed this like 2-3 years before Frehley's Comet released it. And it's a little bit heavier. Sounds a little bit different. There's some different lyrics in there. As I said, he's tweaked them. But it's a heavier and, dare I even say, better version of the song. I hate to say that, but it is. It's interesting that Ace seemed to really like this song at the time. If I remember right, in '87 when he was touring, he would close his main set with this song.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it.
I mean, it's lyrically, it's a cool.
Yeah,
it's a cool. Like We Got Your Rock right here. It's a good. But the song kind of plods a little.
Yes.
And
that's why I'm saying it. And you might not have heard it. Listen to the Sin version. And it's a bit more aggressive, I'll say, a harder rock. And I like the way they approached this song more than the way Frehley's Comet approached this song. This is one, quite honestly, I don't need to hear again. I hate to say that. I'm going to go with a 4.8 on this.
Yeah, I don't think it's a below average song. I think it's even though it plods a bit, there are elements of the song that I like, again, I like, when he sings they sing the We Got Your Right, if you don't understand, whatever the lyric, We Got Your, I just feel like it's still a catchy song. And I even like the
I like that. Otherwise, I might have had a lower score.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think it's slightly above average. I gave it a 5.5.
Okay. It's interesting to me as we conclude side A of the album. That's 5 songs. Ace wrote almost none of the lyrics of those first 5 songs on the album.
Well, come on. Again, Ace was, you said it earlier, Ace was not in the best shape.
Right.
You know, he's lazy Ace probably, you know what I mean? And yeah.
But I bring that up right now because let's go back to where the conversation started. Labels were afraid to take a risk, and Eddie kind of stuck his neck out there. And think about even the music of the first 5 songs, right? So he wrote the music for Rock Soldiers, which was new music. Breakout was 6 years old, 5 years old, whatever it was at that time. And all the other songs musically on side A, Ace did not write. So here it is, the album that proclaims Ace is back and he told you so. And side A, the album, he doesn't have a ton to do with the music on the record. It's just, it's, even though it's great, there's a lot of good stuff on that, but it's interesting to me to look at that because I didn't think about that in '87 when I bought the album. I'm like, oh, Ace has got 3 vocals on this. I see his name on these songs. Oh man, Ace is back and he told me so. But wasn't you know, for all those years of inactivity, he didn't on that first side have a lot of material that he put there that was new. You know, it's just interesting to me. Yeah, even a song like We Got Your Rock went back to his first solo show he did in '84 that I mentioned before. He was doing this song back then. So there's really nothing on side A that was new for Ace in the last couple of years. Just interesting to me.
Yeah.
Saying that, let's turn over the record. Let's go to side B. Love Me Right. Another Ace Frehley song. Go ahead, my friend.
So this was what, co-written by this Irish Schickman, whoever the heck that is.
So I had to look that up because I'm like, who is Irish Schickman? He's, I think, got 3 Grammys, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So he's an accomplished songwriter, producer, etc., which makes me wonder, did he actually
do anything?
Did he have a lot? How much did Ace have to do with this song?
Yeah. I wonder how they all met and all that whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know anything. And in fairness, I did not know anything about this guy at all until I Googled him when you said you wanted to do this album. I'm like, who is this guy? He's the only one on this record. I don't know who he is.
Yeah. You go with this one.
You want me to go first? All right.
Yeah.
So after I just finished saying how, you know, Ace didn't do a lot on the first side. Again, I don't know what Ace did for songwriting on this song, but I have to say this secretly. It's one of my favorite Ace songs on the album. I just always liked the riff. I liked the feel. And again, I like the vocal Ace does on this. The chorus, while simple, is effective to me. Like I said, I like this one a lot. I'm going to go with a 6.5 on this. It's just, it's one of my favorite Ace songs on this album.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't go quite as high as that, or I gave this one a 5.7, a little bit more than We Got Your Rock. I like the way, again, the feel, the drums. It's definitely got a better feel, and to give it a 0.2 more than We Got Your Rock, I could really evaluate that maybe. But I think why I gave We Got Your Rock what I gave it was based on title and just the chorus itself, and kind of more trying to be like an anthem type of thing. And I just think that, although again it plods, it's kind of effective in that way. But yeah, this is, you know, you could hear on the Love Me Right, you could hear the Todd doing the harmonies on there. Because I'm trying to remember when I was looking at those songs where you hear them singing together. You know, like when we get to the next song, I don't hear Ace at all singing. I don't even think Ace was in the studio when they recorded the song.
It could be
quite honestly, could be wrong about that. You know,
could be.
But even like Something Moved, you know, in the chorus in that, I don't hear Ace, you know, in that chorus. You know, I kind of get the feeling when Todd did his songs, you know, Todd did his songs. When Ace did his songs, Todd was there and Ace was there. You know?
It's funny though you're saying this, because for whatever reason, when I got this album, I was never sure, is that Ace or Todd singing? All right, Vinny's putting the sun across his face.
You know, I got to do the lightsaber thing.
Of course. I saw it go across your face. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. But anyway, for some reason, when I first got the record, I was never sure at first if this was Ace singing or Todd singing, which again says an awful lot about what Eddie Kramer was able to get out of Ace. Because make no mistake, Todd is a far superior singer to Ace Frehley. You know? Yeah. Well, in the chorus, I think it's more maybe like, who is this? Yeah. The verse, but yeah.
to the
Yeah,
max.
that's
I'm like, oh,
clearly
that's
Ace.
Ace.
Yes, clearly, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
I'll go so far as to say this. I've already given my rating. Probably if Rock Soldiers wasn't rammed down my throat for the last 30 years and Love Me Right was instead, I'd probably like Love Me Right better than Rock Soldiers. I know I gave Rock Soldiers like I think it was a 0.2 higher. In a lot of ways, I think Love Me Right is the best Ace song on this album.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All righty.
Yeah.
I'm calling to you. Go ahead, my
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah. I mean, this is the standout track on the record. Should have been a single. I know you had even sent it to me. There was Todd's original band 707.
Yep.
Where this came from, and the co-writes on there. Frehley, he didn't do anything on this song. I'm sorry.
Well, no, supposedly Frehley is the one that rewrote the chorus.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Because
I thought this was like
he's like, how can we sing a song about our record label, right? Because the original 707 version, the chorus is like a mega force, and they keep saying mega force. And Ace is like,
which is ironic.
Yes, it's very ironic. It had nothing to do with the label.
Right.
But Ace is like, people are going to think we're singing about the label. No way. And supposedly Ace Frehley rewrote the chorus. And I'll give him credit. I like the chorus that Frehley's Comet recorded better than the 707 version.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know, it's got a great guitar solo, which you could hear clearly, you know, Todd is playing. I don't know if it's a dual guitar solo.
I think Todd starts and then Ace comes in and does the second half.
So, but yeah, no, it's you know, it's a great song and it should have been a single. I gave this one a 9.5.
Nice.
Yeah.
Look, I agree with you. This is the standout song on the album. It should have been a single. I guess the label wanted to keep pushing Ace at this point and not Todd. That's a mistake, I think, in the song's case. I've heard, I don't know if this is true because I don't have the 707 album. I heard Jonathan Cain originally had a co-write on this song on the 707 version, and his co-write was taken off the Calling to You, Ace Frehley's version. I can't imagine Jonathan Cain, a great songwriter himself, that his only contribution to the song originally was the chorus, like a mega force, mega force, mega force, mega force. I have that hard time believing that was Jonathan Cain's huge contribution. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he doesn't really have a co-write on the original version, but I remember reading that. I looked to see if I could find something definitive. I couldn't, but look, I agree. This is a friggin' great song. I also went with a 9.5 on this. This to me is just friggin', I never get sick of hearing this song. I like the 707 version as well. I happen to think the Frehley's Comet version is even better. It's just a great song.
Yeah, agreed.
All righty.
Here we go.
Fucking
go. So what'd you give it? I'm sorry, what'd you give it?
9.5.
9.5 on my piano. Yeah.
Dolls. I'll start off here. So one of us has to, I guess, right? I've seen some Kiss fans say they love this song. I will never, ever understand that for the life of me. This song, I mentioned before, that first Frehley's Comet show in '84, Ace did this song at that show. So this song was around for a few years at this point. I can't imagine, you said before, Eddie Kramer as a producer picks what songs. I can't imagine any person sitting there saying, yeah, this is a song that belongs on the album. Lyrically, I think it's horrific. It's freaking creepy. The music, not good to me. I understand they wanted something different on the album. I get that, right? So they accomplished that. They have something sonically to your ears different, but you friggin' had the song Back Into My Arms Again at that time, which is far superior to this song, far superior. I don't know what the hell Ace was drinking, smoking, both when he wrote this song. This is just, for me, this song is a complete train wreck. And the fact that he was doing it in '85 in concert when he didn't have an album out yet, and this is like one of the showcase new songs. I never went to those shows. I can't imagine having, I would have been like, I don't want a friggin' Ace Frehley album if that's what it's going to sound like. It's just, thank God when the album came out and he was touring for the album, this was only one of 2 songs he didn't perform. So somewhere along the way, he realized probably many Kiss fans didn't like it. I know he's got his daughter singing background vocals on this, and maybe that's one of the reasons like he liked it. Whatever. I think this is horrible, horrible. I'm going with a 1, and I questioned what would it take to go to a 0 because that's how much I don't like this song. A 1.
Yeah, I mean, look, I remember you hating it back in the day. I think I even remember you knowing of the song, anticipating this was going to be on the record.
Yeah.
You know, and
It's a horrible vocal also.
Well, yeah, I put, you know, the only one note I put is one of the worst verses ever. It's just when I win. It's just terrible. You know, what Eddie Kramer got out of his vocals, this is fucking brutal.
Yes.
And the only reason why I gave this a 1.9 is because at least the chorus is, to me, a little catchy, and even though it's stupid as all hell, I love my dolls, you know, like the song redeems itself a little bit, you know, I say a little bit, 0.9 a bit, because we never gave anything a 0, I don't think.
That's why I said I wonder what it would take, and maybe it was the fact that the chorus does have a little bit of a hook to it. So
yeah, so that's why I gave it a 0. I gave it a 1.9, but this song is terrible. It was a waste of space for Ace, you know. And,
and coming out of chorus, when's friend come over, they're astonished by their sight. Oh God, shut up, Ace! It's horrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Oh man, this might be one of the worst songs I've ever heard in my life. I feel like.
Yeah, this.
Give me the Hammond organ over this.
Don't close your eyes. This, you know, you could.
Well, you gave "Don't Close Your Eyes" like a 0.4 more.
Did I?
Yeah, I remember that was a 2.3 for "Don't Close Your Eyes." And I say to you, how in the world could that song be anywhere even remotely closely rated to this?
Because I just hate the vocal on that song.
Damn, you hate that song.
It's just not happy.
Oh man.
Never liked it. Didn't like it then. Don't like it now. Will never like it in the future. Yeah. So yes, 1.9 I gave for this.
1.9, almost double my score. Think about that.
Yeah, I know, that's scary. Double 1.
Oh, you're at a 1.9. That's almost double my score.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say about that. All right, let's move on, please, before I get myself aggravated.
Okay, Forrest Gump.
Stranger in a Strange Land. I want you to go first, my friend, as I recompose myself here.
Yeah, Stranger, it's not a bad song. I think it's slightly above average. You know, there's nothing really annoys me in the song. Chorus is pretty cool, you know. I gave it slightly above average. I get a 5.2 for this one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is another song. This one is, with Dolls, the only 2 songs I think that Ace was the sole co-writer on. And this song dated back to early 95 also, when he was doing those solo shows. I know.
95, 85?
85.
Right, I was like, wow.
Yeah. No.
He recorded the song. He got the DeLorean. He got the DeLorean, wrote the song with Doc. They got back.
Shut up, divide by 10, sir. Yeah, I mean, so this is another, I mean, like I said, what Ace is bringing to the table. This is a song that was already 2.5 years old by the time it was released. But I agree with you. It's not a bad song. It's to me a very average song. I know Ace has brought it back a few times over the years and inserted it into his solo shows. I think as recently as last year, he was doing this for a little bit. So, and it kind of makes me scratch my head, like, why this song? Maybe only because he's the only songwriter on it, but
could be.
I'm like, if you're gonna bring a song back from this album, bring back Into the Night, not Stranger in a Strange Way, Stranger in a Strange Land.
Yeah,
it's good. It's okay. I'm gonna go to 5.1, just a smidge below you on this.
You did that on purpose.
Of course, I did it on purpose.
Yeah.
All righty. That brings us to the final song of the album, the instrumental, Fractured 2, TOO.
Yeah.
Even though it's number 2.
Yeah.
Go ahead, my friend.
I don't like instrumentals. Let me just say that. I don't even know how to rate this. We had another album where we rated an instrumental and I just gave it a 5 because I just don't, you know, it didn't bother me. It doesn't do anything for me. I mean, this might be, again, people going to crucify me, even on his first solo album, his Fractured Mirror. Never did anything for me. If that song comes on and I skip it. It just doesn't do anything for me. So I don't even know how to rate this is what I'm saying.
Right.
because I don't listen to it or won't want to listen to it, I'm not going to give it a 1.
Right.
So I did what I did the last time. I'm just going to give it a 5. I'll just say it's average because
You're
I
gonna
just
neutralize
don't.
it.
I just yes, exactly. I just don't know how to rate it.
Hmm.
It's good. There's nothing in it where I'm like, oh, what is this? You know?
Right. Right.
You know, I know John Regan gets a co-write on it. I'm not sure what he did, but saying that because Fractured Mirror is, I think, highly regarded as an instrumental, this is a follow-up. You know, it's kind of a hard thing to do, and I think they did a damn good job on it.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. So you're going with a 5.
What a 5 on this.
Okay. Yeah, you see, I don't have, it's funny because you're the musician and I'm not, but I don't have a problem with instrumentals. They just need to be good. And I think with Fractured Mirror, to me, I'll say hit a home run as far as instrumentals go. I think that's very memorable. I see obviously what they're trying to do here. And I love that does kind of like tie his 78 solo album to this one. It just, to me, is nowhere near what Fractured Mirror was. You know, they're trying stylistically for it to be similar. It falls a bit flat for me for some reason, as opposed to the next album Ace did when he has the Acorn is Spinning, which is for all intents and purposes an instrumental. I freaking love that song. If that song comes on, I'm like, oh yeah, it gets me all pumped. I like that, you know. And I know there's a few little like spoken lyrics in there, but that's an instrumental. This is just kind of there to me. I went ever so slightly lower than you. I went with a 4.8 on this.
Okay.
So there we have it. Those are our ratings song by song. Where does the total album average come out? I want to make sure you divide them by 10, not 9, not 12, not 4.
Shut up.
Oh, I'm going to double check you from now on, my friends.
Shut up.
Dang. Where does my overall rating for this album come out?
Where does your overall? Okay, so your overall. Okay, so your overall rating for this album is a 6.13.
Okay.
And mine is a 6.44.
A little higher than me. Now, what if we took Dolls out for both of us?
Okay, let's do that.
Because we both gave that less than a 2.
Hold on, let me divide by 9 now because I don't want to get yelled at. Number 9. Wow. I become a 6.9 and you become a 6.7.
Right. Yeah.
Which when you compare it against, you know, we talked about this earlier. I'm trying to bring up that spreadsheet that you sent me. All right, here it is. You know, Bon Jovi debut is 6.8. You know, so for you it's 1 point under that, and for me it's a little higher than that.
But that's taken off Dolls. So put Dolls back in. Put Dolls back into the mix, and we're saying that the Bon Jovi debut is better than the Frehley's Comet debut.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I would agree with that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but again, we both rated it a little bit above, average. Not a little bit. I don't even what 6 is like above, you know, above average. Let's say a little bit above average. You know.
Yep.
You know, so I feel pretty good about my ratings here. I'm just looking them over again. Can I go 0.2, you know, higher, maybe on 1 or lower? No, yeah, but it would all average out the same.
It's all going to average out, right? I'll say this. So, I mean, we started off saying how Eddie and John kind of let Richie go and brought in Todd. And now that I've kind of put my cards on the table, so to speak, I think that was for this album just a freaking great move, because the 2 songs to me that Todd brings to the table, Something Moved and Calling to You. Well, we just both said Calling to You is the best song on the album, right? So no Todd, no
rated it as the same score.
We both gave it we both gave it a 9.5, right? I think I was a little higher than you on Something Moved, but I think for me, Something Moved is maybe the second or third, the third highest song rated, right? I have Calling to You, Into the Night, and then Something Moved. So 2 of the top 3 songs on the album are Todd songs for me.
Yeah, Something Moved and Breakout you gave the same, so it's like a tie for whatever.
Which is a Todd vocal. I know he didn't write it, but it's a Todd vocal. Yeah. So 3 of the 4 top songs on the album to me are Todd vocals.
And then let's not go into Second Sighting, because we know what happened with that record,
right?
You know, where it's basically a Todd record.
Yes, it is. You know, it is. So, and it doesn't come close to this to me. But I think to me, I point this out because
although it does have 2 great Todd songs on that record, right? It's got the ballad, right?
It's Over Now. Yeah, it's great. Time Ain't Running Out is good. I happen to like
And
New Kind of Lover. I think is
That's one,
good
New
also.
Kind of Lover. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So there's
He's
a
got
few. And
3 solid
Acorn is
songs.
Spin. I mean, there's a few good songs on that.
Todd really didn't write any shit witches, basically.
Agreed.
You know,
There's no dolls coming from Todd.
no,
You know.
no.
But to me, it's amazing because I have very fond memories of this album. And I remember being excited, like we said at the top, yeah, yes, Ace is back and he put out a good album. As I re-listened to it and re-examined it, I say, Todd for me had some to do with that. Because like I just said, 2 of the top 3 songs on the album, Todd written songs to me. I think the label was doing right by surrounding Ace with good talent around him.
Absolutely. Yeah. And let's not forget, God rest his soul, John Regan, how he really kept Ace in line and together, and he got screwed by Ace and whole other things we've heard about things. And, they put out a couple of compilations, I think, if I remember, to try to redeem some money, and there's a whole bunch of horse shit that went on, But
now you mentioned those compilations. Go ahead. No, you go.
But we should really give credit where credit's due, and because we know that John Regan loved Frehley's Comet, and I think he would, if he was still around, he would say I kind of really had high hopes for this band, and quite honestly, keeping the original lineup, this band, if it would have stayed together for more than 2 albums, I think could have been more of a mega force. See what I did there?
I see what you did there. Yes.
So,
and I hate to say this, if Ace was maybe as focused as he's been the last 10, 15 years now that he's supposedly sober, I think that, Ace in the 80s in his prime, this band could have been a powerhouse. I really think it could have been, I pointed out what Ace did and didn't bring to the table for these songs, not to knock him, because I like the album, and Ace arguably might be my favorite member of Kiss of all time. But just that, even with such a good album there, some of the things Ace was bringing to the table for some of these songs was minimal. And I think, look, there's no Parasite on this album. There's no Rocket Ride, right? Imagine if there was. Imagine if Ace was that focused and was putting out songs like that instead of Dolls or Stranger in a Strange Land.
Yeah, I mean, even like the what's the song on Dynasty?
Hard Time, Save Your Love.
Yeah, you're right. Even Talk to Me. I mean, I mean, Ace really did excel after he, got his vocal written song Shock Me. I mean, it wasn't like, and then, obviously with the solo album, he really did have a good period. I mean, I even love Torpedo Girl, for God's sakes,
me too.
But
Ace,
no, I'm just saying, if Ace would have stayed on track and probably been sober, and he definitely, I think songwriters in general max out at a certain point based on their skill set. I really do. I mean, and I think that's what made the Billy Joel song so great, in my opinion, when he put it out, because, he didn't write a song for however many years, but when you listen to that, he Billy Joel'd it.
Right.
It was like, I always said it back then, if this was off The Stranger or 52nd Street, you'd believe it. It had all the ingredients,
Right.
But Billy Joel was a far superior songwriter and musician, lyrically, and just what he could play. I mean, this guy's, could play classical piano, just his skill set on the piano and the chords and what he did, So your musical language is just that more depth.
Well, he is the piano man.
He is the piano man. But even the Stevie Wonders of the world, eventually they run out of steam. Yep. If you've never listened to Stevie Wonder, if you never listened to Talking Book or Fulfillingness, for whatever finale, whatever the hell that, or Songs in the Key of Life, you've done a disservice to yourself as a music listener. Songs in the Key of Life, a double record, is one of the greatest albums that was ever recorded. I mean, you may not be a fan of R&B or soul music, but listen to the depth of the lyric, of the musical, and you'll probably be surprised. I don't know if you would be, but oh man, that song's on there. Yeah, I know this is like kind of what you did with the Boston record.
Right.
But my point being is that, songwriters, they all done it. Even the Elton Johns of the world, Paul Simon, eventually Paul McCartney,
Yep.
That's why I remember, and I'm going on a little tangent here, I remember when the Rolling Stones, and this is 1989, which is already, 35, 36 years ago, when they had, you know, the song Mixed Emotions, you know, when they had that Steel Wheels tour, and then they had, you know, Caught Between a Rock and a Hard Place. I was like, how the fuck are these guys still writing these songs? Like, this is like, they came out in like 1962, you know, and these were, you know, they were hits, and
It's
they
almost
were
30 years later.
Yeah, it's like, that's fucking hard to do.
It is.
You know, after you write Satisfaction, after you write, you know, Paint It Black, and you know,
pretty much only go down from there.
Yeah, it's like, you know, and then the 70s, you have, you know, all those, you know, Brown Sugar and Angie and Wild Horses, Start Me Up, right? It's like, and then you crank that out. Like, how does that happen? There's certain people who are blessed, you know, and just whatever it is, this God-given talent, and there's, you know, and it's just, that always amazed me. Why am I talking about this? Oh, we're talking about Ace Frehley
as a songwriter.
Right, yeah. And that's why I gotta be honest, like anything he's put out, you know, of the last 10 years, it just, yeah, when I heard the last record, I'm like, oh, this is Steve Brown.
Right.
Something like that. Steve, you know, and sometimes it takes that. It's no fault to him.
No.
You know, sometimes you need that other thing that stirs the pot.
Absolutely.
Like if I'm gonna keep going, don't stop me. If Paul Simon, when he did Graceland, right? He had all those African musicians played on that record and all that influence. Yes, he wrote the songs. However, the influence of being around that made him create that. Without that, without that, he wouldn't have that record. You know, which people consider being one of the great records of all time. And again, Simon and Garfunkel, one of the greatest, you know, I mean, he wrote those songs. It was all Paul Simon, but one of the greatest duos, you know, from a vocalist. Bridge Over Troubled Water, I always say, is arguably one of the greatest songs ever written. That's how much I put that in high regard, you know, as a stairway to heaven, you know. It's just, I mean, man, I say, I wish I wrote that song. And then in the 70s, Kodachrome, you know, 50 Ways to Leave a Lover, Still Crazy After All These Years. I mean, Still Crazy After All These Years, I think I have the chord book. It's 29 chords or something like that in that song. It's incredible when you, as a songwriter or as somebody who plays an instrument, people should look this up. It might be that song, I'm not sure, but just look up Paul Simon, Dick Cavett show. And he talks about, I have this new song I'm writing, and, you know, and he starts showing, and it might be Still Crazy After All These Years. And he goes, and I'm at the bridge now, and I could go here with this chord, or I could go here. And he's like, well, what makes you decide? He's like, and he kind of explains it in a more technical term, but the song wasn't out. And this one became one of the greatest songs he ever wrote. It's fucking brilliant. It's one of the great clips if you're a music lover, and I love that archive stuff. So I know this is an Ace Frehley, you know, thing, but if you're a music lover, I know Super Mario, you've seen it.
Sure, yes.
But yeah, it's just a wonderful thing, you know, when you get into the songwriting. And I think, again, Ace Frehley was a good songwriter. And I just wish that as part of this Frehley's Comet, he was more of a contributor, especially if there was the disappointment of the second album. And we kind of know why that was.
Agreed. And, you know, I'll just close with saying this, and it's not even necessarily about songwriting, but one of the things I think Ace does better than any artist I could think of is covering somebody else's tunes and making them his own. Right. So we spoke about Into the Night, and there's certainly a lot of similarities to the original version, but I hear that song and I believe that's an Ace Frehley song. You mentioned before, you know, the songs on Dynasty, 2000 Man. To me, that's an Ace Frehley song. That's not a Rolling Stones song. You know, we started off talking about New York Roof, which is another cover tune, right? He has a knack for really doing other people's songs and doing them very well, which is why, like, I get surprised when I see and I hear We Got Your Rock is actually a cover, because it sounds like an Ace Frehley song to me. You know, it's one of the things I think that I can't think of another artist who is as good as covering somebody else's songs and making them their own.
Yeah.
And that's not saying he has the best cover, but I'm not saying, you know, look, there's covers out there that are like was thinking of this the other day. I posted on my Facebook page the Huey Lewis song "Heart and Soul" as a cover tune. That's a Huey Lewis song. That's a great Huey Lewis. But there's great cover songs out there.
Red Red Wine, which is a Neil Diamond song, and UB40 did their kind of, which is a great,
I Will Always Love You, right? Whitney Houston.
Although I like the original, which I like the original better. That's just me.
Oh, do you really? Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. So look, I'm not saying Ace has the best covers of any artist, but I don't know any artist has able to do as many successful and convincing cover tunes the way Ace has.
And even Do Ya was a great cover.
Yeah, that's a great point. I forgot about that. Yes, that's another great
which
cover
supposedly that was a Eddie Kramer, said, I want you to do this one. I think this would be good. And it's a great cover.
And it's a great cover. So
yeah.
I look forward to seeing what people have to say about this record. I look forward to seeing what people's favorite songs are. What do you think of the Todd songs on the album? Do you think it adds to it? Do you disagree with us about Dolls? Combined, we don't have a good score. Combined, we're at a 2.9. So I'm curious to see what other people have to think about that. And do you remember getting the album in '87? Did you buy it when it first came out? And were you excited that Ace was back, like he was proclaiming? And do you feel Ace was back with this album? I really look forward to seeing what people have to say. I do think this is a beloved album by Kiss fans and by Ace fans. So I think that, a lot of people will say that they enjoy it, but I'll be curious to read the comments.
Absolutely.
All righty, my friend. Always joyous. I think we have another one planned that we're just starting to do our homework on that I really look forward to, but we'll keep it under wraps right now what that is. But this will be one that I think interests the Kiss fans. So
absolutely.
As always, my friend, this was a blast. We'll sign off with the double Ringo. I'll make it nice and easy for you.
Thank you.
Until next time, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Alrighty, there you have it. We really look forward to reading and seeing your comments all about the debut Frehley's Comet album. What are your favorite songs? What songs don't you like on the album? And do you really think this was a great comeback album for Ace? As always, there's no right or wrong answers, and we look forward to what you have to say. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to me on my podcast, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.